Today, we're talking about how to coach in groups, how to successfully run a group coaching call that gets your clients better results than they ever could have gotten in a one-on-one engagement. Welcome in. This is the live recording of episode 53 of the Client by Client podcast. If this is your first time here, say what's up. Drop me a number 1 in the chat or in the comments below. If you've been here before, drop me some emojis. Just hit some emojis in. That'll be my sign that you're a repeat offender. Welcome and hope this finds you well and that everything is solid on your side. We're going to get started here in a little less than 30 seconds. And I want to share everything that I know with you about how to run really good group coaching calls that are engaging, that bring your clients back for more, that get them never wanting to leave your program, and also gets them better results than they ever could have gotten in a one-on-one coaching situation. So if you're pumped for that, drop me a comment, say hello. Let's hop in and let's get this started. Hey, what's up? Jeremy here from whatupjeremy.com, back with another episode of Client by Client. Thank you so much for tuning in. In the last episode, we talked about the first commandment of successful online coaches. And it all starts with not just any plain old offer. It starts with making juicy offers. And in this episode, there are 2 or 3 major mindset shifts that you are going to walk away with so that you have a better, deeper, more profound understanding of how to make juicy offers. Because my promise to you is that when you do actually hit it on the head of making it a no-brainer for people to say yes to work with you, where they would be stupid for saying no. A lot of people say they have that, but when you really have that, it makes everything else easier. Your lead gen starts to magically work better. Your content starts to magically pull more, get more interactions, more comments, more engagements, and you wind up with more clients that are stoked to work with you, clients who feel like they've found the perfect coach for them. So be sure to backtrack 1 episode to episode 52 so that you can understand the first of the 10 commandments of successful online coaches. And over the coming months, we're going to be breaking into all of the 10 commandments and revealing them, almost like we did back in episode 2 or 3, where we talked about the 7 sins of online coaching. But instead of giving them all to you, we're going to unpack them one by one. And that's just going to allow for me to have a little fun with it. In today's episode, I want to share with you everything I know about running a group coaching program, about how to coach in groups, about how to make it engaging, about how to level up you, your clients, your systems, and why this gets your clients and why this gets people better results than they ever could have gotten from a one-on-one coach or from coaching one-on-one. Okay, let's hop in and let's get this started. First, let's talk about why this is important to get right. If you don't get this right in your online coaching business, the first thing that happens is that you will be forever selling your time for dollars, which doesn't sound all that different to me than having a day job. And so what ends up happening is that you position one-on-one, because that's probably where you got started. Any normal person who's not exposed to online coaching for a period of time before they become a coach, or if they're intimidated, you're going to start with one-on-one coaching. I started with one-on-one. You listening probably started with one-on-one. But I have come to find that starting in groups is just as easy, if not easier. But if you don't switch to groups, or you don't learn how to coach in groups well, you'll forever be selling your time for dollars, and you'll just be seen as the coach that only does one-on-one. The second thing that happens is that you limit your impact, and you don't ever get around to installing the systems necessary to scale your online business, because you're stuck all day long in front of your computer in one place. You're glued to that one-on-one call. You're glued into Zoom, and that doesn't allow for you to have the sort of free reign to install systems that help you scale, that help you grow, and that help making your business run easier. So that's what happens if you don't get this right. Now let's talk about how to coach in groups. I want to give you a resource before we hop in here to build on this, because in episode 32, we did a little bit of a showdown and we pitted one-on-one coaching against group coaching. And I shared with you the full picture, the pros and cons of one-on-one and the pros and cons of group coaching, so that you can think through and sift through and have a decent basis for why group coaching is so much better than coaching one-on-one. Now what I want to do is share with you everything I've learned from coaching in groups, how I run the Get Clients program, how I run the calls in the Get Clients program. That way you can start to do this in your business so that you don't have to figure it out and go the hard way. And so that you can start running really good, really engaging group coaching calls in your online coaching program. The first thing I want to talk about is the actual group call. This is probably the biggest component that you're going to be thinking about as you get this started. There is a lot to say about the systems and the management when you're not on your group call for how you run a program and the check-ins and the traffic lighting your clients, which we've talked about in the past when we talked about helping them to never give up a few episodes back. But what I first want to talk about is the actual call, how it actually works, how you run it, and what this looks like. And the reason why I want to start here is because you can start to do this with your next clients. You can literally start to change what you're saying on your sales calls. You can just go and take one-on-one out of everything you have in your copy or on your social media, and you can just start to make this the norm with your next client and make this a value add for the current clients that you have. So let's talk about the group call and everything that goes inside of it. The first part and the first thing that you have to get right when it comes to doing this group call is you have to open up your calendar and you have to pick a day of the week where you can consistently show up at the same day and the same time to deliver your group coaching call. I would recommend starting out at an hour unless you have unless you have 10 or more clients that you're coaching one-on-one, then you might want to do a 90-minute thing. But for the majority of you, 1 hour is going to allow for you to knock it out of the park, deliver a bunch of value, bring your clients closer together, and help them get results. First thing is you have to pick an actual day and time on your calendar. When I do these, in the Get Clients program, Wednesday, 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. Here in Arizona, our time zone doesn't change. So I also, when I was in New Mexico for 6 months, I just kept it to Mountain Standard Time and adjusted my day so that it was easy for my clients. And I knew I was going to be back in Arizona so that when I get back here, it's just the same time in my schedule every single week. We do these on Wednesdays. So midweek, hour-long call, more if we need. My students know that. They have it in their calendar. They know when to show up. They know the link. It makes it super easy. We also make a very easy, I'm not going to share that. That's actually too advanced. The second thing you need to make your group call really good in this first part is you have to have a framework for how you run the call. And that way you can get into a routine. That way you can take the thinking out of it and you can focus on delivering for your clients. So the way my framework works is I start the call and I say, welcome in. And then what I want to do is I immediately want to get into engaging and I immediately want to start out on a high note with some wins. So the first thing that I direct my clients to do is to hands on the keyboard over in the chat. Let me know that you can hear me and see me. That way, if I'm like muted, which has happened, or my microphone isn't working and something with my kit isn't working, I can know. And then second, I want to see some wins. So I'll draw on my iPad to let them know is like, this is how we do it. You're going to put a W in all caps, colon, and then you're going to write out what your win was. And what I challenge my students to do and what I would implore you to do, because yes, you're going to have clients that hop in and they're going to have great wins every single time. Wins that you can share on Instagram, wins that you can share in video testimonials, wins that you can share across your website. A lot of times, maybe nothing has really changed, or there's also been things that have happened in between that weren't so fun, that weren't wins. They weren't necessarily losses, but they don't have like big wins to share. So I always challenge my students, and I would implore you to challenge your clients, that it doesn't have to be like for my students, we want them to get clients, right? We want them to be sharing they got above 15K a month like Juan just did. He's going to have a $60,000 August, right? We're recording this mid-June, literally June 15. So he's already over in August. We want to share wins. I love when my clients are, a 60K month, 65K month, that's amazing. But sometimes a win is that they just showed up. Sometimes a win is that they're in a better mood than they were the day before. Sometimes a win is they have a fresh day. So you have to also frame for them what wins are. That way, when they get there, that the beginning of these calls or anything to do with the calls isn't something where they're going to get dejected. It's where they're going to come and build on those wins, where they can share those things. And then for you as a coach, you can even highlight, the great wins. But you can also highlight the little things, because the reality is, as online coaches, and because the reality is, whenever you're coaching someone, the small wins are what add up to the big wins. So it's important that you highlight those. And that's why I like to start at the top of the call with wins. The second thing we do after people share their wins, I'll read them out. I'll maybe ask a student or two to come up and kind of share more about that, give us more background to inspire others, and kind of like taking their candle and lighting others. It takes no more energy from them, and it helps others to have that same kind of win or to carry that energy with them. The second thing that we do, because the reality is, as online coaches, your clients are going to have wins and they're also going to have losses. But what I try to do is reframe those losses into lessons. You cannot lose if you learn. So I say, we all have wins, we all have things that have happened, but we also have things that maybe don't go our way. So using the letter L, and I want you to drop a letter L in all caps. I want you to share me what's the major lesson this week. So it allows for them to sit there and process what didn't go right and then pull out what they learned from it. And Think and Grow Rich, if it's not Think and Grow Rich, it's How to Win Friends and Influence People. But I'm almost positive it's in Think and Grow Rich. With every negative things that happen is the seed for something positive. And so what this challenges your clients to do is to look into the bad and to find that good so that they feel better about it, so that they can consolidate those losses, turn them into lessons, and hopefully they never have to experience those things again, or they can start to put together the sort of energy, the sort of questions, the sort of actions necessary for them to get more into the win column. And it just helps us to accept the reality of the situation. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Let's reframe that. Sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. This is going to help you to also have more topics to talk about during your coaching call, which we're going to talk about here in a second as we conclude this point. We talked about wins at the beginning of the call. We talked about lessons and helping them to reframe those losses into lessons learned. Then it comes time for Q&A. At the most basic part of this, you can just on the call say, in a couple minutes, we're going to get into your questions. So start thinking about them. But first, I want to see some wins. And you don't have to do anything else. As you get better about this, I like to prepare my clients with their questions. So in the Facebook group, over in the community, in our private community, I might ask, what are your biggest questions for today's call or for this week's call? What are your burning questions about growing your online business? And then now we get on the call and maybe I have 10 questions there. Maybe we really fastly go through wins and lessons and we get into the questions, or it's like we only have 2 or 3 questions, so we can kind of take our time. I can share things that are on my mind. I can ask some more questions. We can bring a student up to talk a little bit longer, and then we can really dive into the questions that we do have, or we can solicit them. And if nothing else, when you're just getting started with group coaching, you might not have a huge client base. It might be a little hard to get people to show up and to be engaged because it's a little weird for you and it's a little weird for them when anything is new. So sometimes if you don't have questions from your students, or you get on the call and like maybe one of your fear is, well, maybe no one has a question. So like, what am I going to do for that hour? I'd recommend that you brainstorm a couple questions that your students should be asking that you can cover. Maybe you talk about, here are tips. Maybe you talk about, here is what we talked about on the podcast or in other content that you do that might be helpful for them, and go deeper on it so they get even more value from it. Or you can say, these are the questions that you need to be asking, so let's go through them and one at a time. And then you'll find that one thing that's really resonating and you can focus in more on that. So create a little data bank of questions that you can resort to if clients don't have a question there. They're also in the middle of their day. Oftentimes, they're in the thick of implementing or doing the day-to-day of their business or implementing what it is that you're coaching them on. And so maybe they haven't had the time to think about a question. As the coach, have questions, have things that you can give them as tips, as things they can learn, or to remind them of the important things for them to keep in mind. The last part of this, and this is helpful when you have a big client base. This is helpful when you're just getting started with group coaching as well in these calls. And I alluded to this, I believe, in the last episode where I talked about one of my mentors. One of my mentors and friends, John Schumacher, he calls it John's Musings. And I think he was inspired by someone else by it. And he talks about that whenever he does his calls. But I like having something that I can talk about, harp on, share, or teach, either as, here's what we're going to do today, or if the energy is a little lower in the group, if we don't have a lot of questions, I need to have things that I can demonstrate, that I can show, and that I can teach. So maybe it's something that's top of mind for you in the topic that you coach on. Maybe you just got off a one-on-one call that you did with a client because you're still maybe doing a little bit of one-on-one, and you want to take that and bring it to the group to unpack it and to share the things that learn from it so that your other students can also learn what emerged from other clients in the program. So I think it's always great to have like a list of topics that you can always go into, or even things that you want to talk about that give you energy, because at the end of the day, Burnout is a real thing, and you need to be somewhat entertained by this and engaged with it. And so if you have topics or things that you want to share, or if you can start to build a list of those topics that you'd like to share, this is going to make your group calls even better. The first thing that you have to get right when it comes to coaching in groups is the weekly call. Pick a day and time in your calendar where you can show up consistently for a minimum of the next 52 weeks and commit to it. Open up with wins, reframe losses into lessons, solicit questions or come prepared with them, and then also have things that you can teach. Musings, as John Schumacher says, and go check him out. He's a great dude. Have things and lessons that you can teach and share that are top of mind for you that you think your clients will enjoy or get something out of. The second thing of how to coach in groups is all about your energy as the coach that's leading this. As humans, it's monkey see, it's monkey do. And your clients are going to be taking major cues from you in their body language and how they talk and how they operate and in how they think. And it's important that you keep that in mind, because if you don't keep that in mind, it's very easy to just be you and maybe accidentally say or do or be in an energy that's maybe not the one that you would have consciously chosen. So when you come with whatever energy you come to with your call, you are going to get matched by your other clients. So it's important that you choose the energy that you're going to show up with and be conscious about it and get and do whatever you need to get into your state. Maybe it's playing some music, maybe it's meditating, maybe it's doing a breathing exercise before you get on the call. Whatever you're doing before a sales call is probably going to be very helpful for you in these group calls so that you can get yourself into that right state. The next part, the energy that you come with and that you give to your clients, you're giving that energy to them. It's also an investment, because there are going to be days where maybe you don't show up with the right energy, but you have students who do. And so it actually boomerangs to you and bounces back to them. So it kind of becomes this very helpful cycle, but it can also work in a negative way if you're showing up in the wrong energy and allowing for your clients to do the same. So invest in your clients and invest in you in having the right energy, because that's what's going to dictate how your program feels as new clients come in and as your current clients are thinking about maybe continuing or not. So you get to choose that, and you will not know the fruits of your labor until you're in one of those renewal calls, or until you maybe have someone who's questioning if they want to stay in your program longer than a month. Really do get your energy right and invest it in your clients, because that's going to go so far for you and in kind of bringing everyone together and creating the community kind of family feel. Part of the energy that you need to bring is understanding your role as the coach on these calls. Yes, you are a part coach, but you also need to be a director, and maybe even like within symphonies, like in a symphony, is that called a composer? Who's at the front kind of directing them with the stick? I'm doing a terrible job of explaining that. You need to be a coach, and you also need to be one part director. You need to be directing your clients on what to do. I gave you a little sample and point number one for how I open the call. Welcome in, hands on the keyboard. If you can hear me or see me, let me know over in the chat. And then hands on the keyboard. Again, I'm saying that throughout. Hands on the keyboard over in the comments. I want to know your wins. What I'll also share before I get into musings, or one of the things that I do whenever a client does ask a question, when they have a question and we're going to go into it, is I will say, because we're going to bring them up to the front, right? And you're going to have 9, let's say you have 10 clients. You're going to have you and one client up at the front of the Zoom room and 9 other people just standing by and watching. That can become very boring and mundane if you don't know what to do, say, or position for your other clients. So let's say a student drops a question into the chat. What I'll do is say, hey, that's a great question. Let's bring you up to talk about this. Before, what I'll also do is I say, can you give me some more context for why you're asking the question? And what I challenge my clients to do is over in the chat, put your question with a Q, capital Q in the front so I know it's a question, and then drop your question along with the first thing you're considering doing and an alternative. That way I can get more context to why they're asking, because there are times where all 10 clients are going to come on the call and they all have a question and they all need some time. So I need to understand some context, because that can allow for me to go directly into the answer. Oftentimes students will get to typing that question in and they already know the answer and they already have thought through it and felt through it. They just want a little bit of validation, which is totally cool. Then putting 2 answers that they're considering to their question really allows for me and for the group to understand why they're asking the question and to see it through the filter of their own eyes to get some more context. Once they're up in the front of the Zoom room, I say, hey, thanks so much. That's a great question. Share with us a little more. They're going to share more on their question and why it came up, along with the answers they're considering. Then I'll say, okay, got it. And I'll repeat it to them in my own words or in theirs to make sure that I'm hearing it right. And then I'll say, okay, great. For everybody here, for everybody in the room right now, we're going to coach this person on this question. And yeah, we're going to be diving into their own business and giving them a specific answer. But I want for you to be thinking about in your online business, how does this, like, what does this mean to you? How can you take this question and build off of it? And then I also want you, as I'm giving them the answers, as we're going through this, I want you to put your insights and what's standing out to you most over in the chat. If you've ever watched an Apple keynote, more of them from back in the day, what you'll notice is in the front, like 30 rows, are all the journalists with their laptops on their lap. And what they're doing as Steve Jobs or now Tim Cook comes out and announces, or whoever from Apple is talking about the current announcement that they're sharing, they are live tweeting that to their websites and on Twitter. They're like live blogging it, they're live tweeting it. And that's what I share with my clients to do. And that's what really good group calls do. So that's what I want for you to direct so that's what I want for you to direct your clients to do when they hop on a call. Hey, I'm about to coach Jared on this answer, but what I want you thinking about in your business is, where is this also emerging and what can you take from this answer? And if you have an answer or a variation of what I'm saying, I want you to share that over in the chat. And now, if I'm coaching Jared on whatever the answer is to his question and we're unpacking it and talking through it, now I'm going to have 2 or 3 clients who have shared what happened to them when they didn't get it right and how they got it right. And I can say, hey, Ellie, can you come up and can you share more on that? And now there's 3 of us up in the Zoom room. Everyone's engaged. The chat is blowing up with their insights, with quotes that I'm saying, observations of what the student is sharing, observations of what the other student I've called up to now share their answers. And so now everyone's engaged around it. You have to absolutely keep all of your clients engaged, and there's a way to do this. It's a little bit of like riling up a circus and keeping everyone together. The way that you're going to do that is by directing your clients, is by saying, hey, I'm going to answer this person's question right now. And although you might not have this question, I want you thinking through in your business, how is this contextual to you? And if it's not, I want you sharing in the chat what your experiences with this have been. You have to be a director, direct them to comment, direct them to interact, and direct them to share their own answers. That's thing number 2. Third is all about the replay. Chances are high is that even if all of your clients show up to your first couple group calls because it's new and exciting and you did a good job about individually inviting your clients to come into it, because that's what you also need to do to make it interesting, is they're not just going to come because you do it. Some might, but what I would challenge you to do is reach out to all of your students and say, hey, we're doing this really cool thing. You might even go as far as to saying, hey, you have a couple one-on-ones left. Would you be open to, for your next one-on-one, trading that in for coming to the group call and seeing how that is for your business? And if you don't like it, or if you don't get your answers, we'll get you that one-on-one back and we'll make sure to have that booked. And you'll have some students that say, yeah, totally, that'd be cool. And now they're going to show up. So make it special for your clients. Reach out to them and say, hey, Jared, this week we're doing something new. We're doing this group call. I would love to see you there. It's at this time and at this date. Do you have questions? We can answer them. But if not, would love to see you there. Are you in? Something like that. Invite them so they feel personally on the hook to come. If you only do this through email or group posts, that allows for people to have the out and not show up. So welcome. So invite them and make them feel like you're counting on them being there and like you're going to be saving them a seat almost. So not everyone's going to be able to attend every call. Maybe they can come for the first half and get their question answered. Maybe they have a call of their own with one of their students, or maybe they have something come up in their life. I know all of you don't coach business owners, but they're going to have something come up in their life where they can only show up for a portion of the call, or they can't show up for the call at all, or they can only check in the beginning or in the end. That's totally cool. These things happen. This is also why you want to make, or one reason why you want to make, a replay of the call available to your students. As you guys know, I'm a huge proponent of using Facebook groups for your private community for your clients, because it's free, because everyone has Facebook, and because they have the platform for it. So it's going to save you a bunch of money, and it's going to allow for you to reach your clients using the tagging and using the notification functions that are inside of there to keep your program and your clients more engaged. Not everyone can make it. So what I do is I'm going to upload the replay. I'm going to go in now, and throughout the next couple days, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, maybe even over the weekend, I'm going to use the @everyone tag to tag everyone in the program, say, here's the replay. I'm going to tag individual students and thank them in the comments for coming. If you weren't able to come, or you missed a part of it, or you're only able to see part of it, I'm going to tag you in it, and I'm going to maybe even share, hey, I want you to check out this point. Hey, you missed this thing, you should check it out. And what this does is this gets one, it gets your clients that showed up to the call to watch the replay so that it sticks. If you're anything like me, then you have to hear things 10 times before they stick. When I find the right lesson, module, course, or coach to help me through the exact thing I'm trying to navigate through right now in my business, I listen to that thing on absolute repeat to where it becomes me and I become it. And your students might need to hear that from you multiple times before they get something right. So it's helpful for your students to be re-going through the replay. So I also say, hey, we're going to get this replay uploaded by the end of the day. Be sure to go rewatch it. Then I'm going to tag students who were there and who weren't there so that I build engagement so that that post continues popping up at the top of the newsfeed for all of my clients, and so that all my clients can go through it. Because sometimes if you're switching from one-on-one into groups, they may not know the value of group coaching, and so they may be a little shy to show up to it. And so if they see that it's awesome and it's fun, and they maybe even hear their name on the call that they weren't able to be there, this is going to cause for them to get more out of the program, maybe show up for the next call. And if nothing else, it's valuable that if they weren't able to be there, they can get their question answered, tagged in the timestamp for where it happened in the video. Now they get their question answered, they can go and implement that thing. And they're going to be so stoked that even though they weren't able to be there, they can get the replay. So not everyone can make it. Tag students who were there, tag students who missed it. And what I like to do is I like to plug the previous call at the beginning of the call, kind of like how we do on this podcast, how I welcome you in. I say on the last episode, what I'll say, because it's been 7 days since the last group calls, I'll say, hey, on the last call, we talked about visualization. And I'll give some background and why it's so important. So now my students who are live with me on the call, they might want to go back and rewatch it. And maybe they already did rewatch it. They're going to watch it again. Or a student who was here today who missed the last week is going to say, oh, crap, that's awesome. Let me go and do that. And then sometimes the other part of the group call that you should know logistically that could be helpful for you, and this is your program, so do what you want, is I only leave the most recent 8 group calls up. So over in the guides of the Facebook group are our weekly stand-up calls. And inside of there are only the most recent 8. And the reason I do that is it keeps my program fresh. It also creates a little bit of urgency for my students to go through the replay so they don't just feel like they can come and consume the stuff whenever they want. We're here to get results. And I want to do everything I can to encourage and incentivize that. Every now and again, like last week's call on visualization that I've been talking about on the show over the last couple episodes, and like we went into on episode 51 to build off of that, is sometimes the content is so good in that group call that you want it to stick around forever. And so what I'll do is I'll rename it. Maybe I'll edit some things out or have it edited out to where it really sticks into the topic that I'm wanting, like a YouTube video might, like it doesn't ramble on, it just sticks to the topic. And then we'll add that into the right area of the Facebook group. So there's an area in guides for our call replays, and then there's also the Get Clients curriculum and the Launchpad curriculum and some bonuses and some tools, and then everything I have on lead gen and on client delivery and on converting clients using sales calls and DMs. And so with visualization, I've already told my students that I plan on making that a part of the program and making that available to them. So 8 weeks from now, 7 weeks from now, that call is supposed to expire. I'll now take that and add that into a different area. On yesterday's call, we talked about making juicy offers. And the 4th part of 5 of making a super juicy offer is bonuses. Well, you can now take that really good call, put it in your guides in an area called bonuses. And when you're pitching prospects and giving them reasons to join, you can share that one of the bonuses is your visualization masterclass, or it's your whatever that call was, masterclass or training or walkthrough or breakdown that's juicy for them. And now there's a bonus and they can consume that the second they get in the call. Sometimes the reason why we join courses and coaching programs and sign up is because the bonus was really, really good on top of it being a juicy offer. And we want to consume that bonus first to kind of whet our appetite. If you're anything like me and you're anything what I've observed in online coaching and in online education. So create a bonus area as well. And then you can move those really good group calls into that bonus area. And that's very little extra work, if none at all. It doesn't have to be edited. It doesn't have to be, polished up real nice, or it can. It's all up to you and the resources that you have available. So guys, that's how you coach in groups, at least focused in on how you run the group coaching call, how you make it entertaining, engaging, and help your clients to get results. The reality is all ships rise in a high tide. So when you get all of your clients together, Client one's win become the wins for everybody else. And the lesson learned from client number 8 becomes a lesson learned for everybody else. And in doing this, we learn faster, we grow faster, we get results faster. And it's the same with your online coaching program. So when you get this right, it becomes entertaining for your clients. They show up week after week, even when they're in New Zealand, like Preeti does. Every single Wednesday, she's up at 3 a.m. for our calls. And she's also getting a ton out of the calls. So you're going to have clients who it's not in the most optimal time zone. There are ways that you can handle that, and there are different things that you can do. But at the end of the day, it comes down to when you can do the call, but when you make it that fun and engaging that they don't want to miss it, you will see your clients make sacrifices in order to make it happen. Too many of you guys will want to say, oh, we'll move the call for you for this one client. No, have a spine. This is the day in the call. When I revisit when we do them, that might be something that we change. But even if you can't show up at 3 a.m, you'll have the call replay there. So you can ask your question in advance, and then I'll answer it and let you know where it's at in the call so that when you wake up, you have that answer and you're good to go. This is how you run group calls. This is how you coach in groups and do it really well. What I want to know from you over on Instagram, send me a DM at WhatUpJeremy. What was your biggest takeaway from this? And maybe what did I skip or miss that you do really well that you think that I should do in my group program? I would love to hear from you. So send me a DM over on Instagram at WhatUpJeremy. In the next episode of Client by Client, we're going to be talking about your next 3 clients. For some of you, this might be your first 3 clients, but for many of you, you've already had at least a couple clients. We're going to talk about your next 3 clients, and I want to share with you where you're going to be getting them from, how you're going to do it. So if you're in need of a client and you want some clients right now, be sure to come back tomorrow for the next episode so that you can understand where your next 3 clients are going to be coming from and what to do to get them. Whenever you are ready, here are 3 ways that can help you grow your online business. Coaches, are you still managing your... Whenever you're ready, here are 3 ways that can help you grow your online business. First, get your free copy of GetBookedCRM. Coaches, when you manage your leads and pipeline from Instagram DM, Facebook Messenger, and your email inbox, not only do you lose leads in the cracks, you leave a lot of money on the table, and that's why I created GetBookedCRM. My CRM helps you get leads and turn them into clients in half the time, and right now, at the time of this recording, it's 100% free. All you have to do is find me on Instagram and send me the letters CRM to get your free copy now. Second, join my free group for online coaches. We're about to cross 900. Join almost 900 coaches over in the Leverage Coach group where I share weekly trainings. You get bonuses and resource and access to me and coaches from all over the world who are just a step ahead of you, at the same step as you, or one small baby step behind. To get your invitation today, message me the word group over on Instagram. Lastly, become my next success story. I'm getting a couple coaches together this month to implement my strategies for Lastly, become my next success story. I'm getting a couple coaches together this month to implement my methods and strategies for injecting $15K worth of new clients or doubling your online client roster over the next 30, 60, 90 days. But I'm very picky and specific about who I work with, so only respond to this if you are a relationship-focused coach who always puts the person ahead of the money. You've been coaching for at least 1 year. You would like to get 3 to 5 clients organically from social media every month without wasting money and time on paid ads. You have at least 300 friends on a social media platform, email list, or group. You are willing to take bold action because you know that your success depends upon it. And last but most important, you can keep a secret. If that's you, I want you to grab your phone right now, find me on Instagram at WhatUpJeremy, and send me the words case study. When you do that, I'll ask you a couple questions about the vision for your online business and your goals. And then I'll share with you what we have coming up this month in the Get Clients program, how we're already helping other students in the program to crush it to get clients with my methods and frameworks. And we'll also share with you what part of the program will likely have the biggest impact the soonest in your online business. Grab your phone right now, find me on Instagram, and send me the words case study for all the details. That's it for this episode of Client by Client. See you back tomorrow with another one. Cheers. Thank you for the hearts and the thumbs up, guys. Super appreciate that. I hope this was helpful. I am serious when I say send me what tips you have for running a group program. That way, if I'm missing anything, I can include that or I can learn from you. Or just let me know over on Instagram or in the comments below what stood out to you most, what was most valuable. We'll be back tomorrow to round out the week with another episode talking about your next 3 clients. So be sure to come back for that. I'll see you guys then. Peace.